So starting out, we're going to talk about the rise of mobile phones and tablets and really get an understanding of exactly where the landscape is right now. We're going to talk about the device battles that are happening, the operating system battles that are happening, which are really very, very interesting, particularly in the last 9 to 12 months. There have been some very interesting new developments. And I'm going to talk about how that may be changing and what all that means for the marketplace and for everybody in the mobile ecosystem, which I think it's a pretty exciting time. So I would like to start when I'm presenting in Europe something that shows how sophisticated the Europeans are as compared to those in the US. All my European friends love it when I do that. So what we looked at was just the overall rate of adoption of smartphones. And Julius Janikowski mentioned yesterday when he was here that in the US we're seeing about 39% smartphone adoption, and it's actually exceeding that here in Europe. So at about a 42 percentage point adoption rate, which is really pretty significant. So mobile clearly is on the rise and being adopted at a pretty unprecedented rate throughout Europe. What's been really interesting about the last year is the explosion of Android. That has really changed the mobile marketplace here pretty dramatically. And what you see here is the overall user bases represented in blue, and the rates of increase represented in orange. And what this tells you is that Android has increased about 330% over the last year, really changing the game here. So in large part, that's come from just overall adoption, marketplace expansion, but in some ways, it's also come from Symbian, which we're starting to see take a little bit of a dip here. So the overall marketplace is really pretty fluid at the moment, and not clear who exactly the winner is going to be 12 months from now. So next question is really, how about tablets? How does that compare? And what is the rate of adoption there? And very interestingly, we're finding that Spain is the leader in terms of tablet adoption. Overall, about 6.5% or so of, 5.5% or so adoption rate across the EU5. But Spain is leading, and Germany is actually lagging somewhat in terms of tablet adoption. But again, when you think about how quickly these things have come onto the market and how quickly they have become a part of so many people's lives, this is really pretty significant. So if you look at what that means overall and how smartphones compared with tablet really, what those usage rates are and how consumers are using them, you put both of those pieces together, and then it's really an Apple game. Apple is really leading. What I'm showing here is the percentage of total traffic across smartphones and tablets and other, iPod Touch type devices. If you put all that together in one bucket and you look at it, then clearly you have Apple as winning. And so this landscape is really very interesting now. Who the leader is really depends on the lens that which you're using to look at what the trends are. So if you're looking at pure user base, Symbian is still the leader. If you're looking at growth rate, clearly Android. And if you're looking at total traffic across all devices, it's really Apple. So really very much of a battleground, if you will. So how does that relate to how consumers are using each of these devices? And won't be any surprise to anybody in this room that a lot of people of those that have smartphones, many of them are using it for mobile media, to consume mobile media. And that percentage rate is about 75% now, so 3 out of 4 people that have smartphones are using them for mobile media consumption, and that's a growth rate of about 62%. So clearly, as people get these things in their hands, they are using them in a way that really increases their consumption of mobile media on the run. And that represents opportunities, I would imagine, for many folks in the room here today. Then how does all of this, when you put it all together, compare to where mobile might be going? So what I'm showing here is total traffic across all of these mobile devices, smartphones, tablets, e-readers, etc. Everything's sort of in one bucket, and how much of it is mobile versus how much of it is still pure PC or kind of an old-time computer. And when you do that, you really understand or begin to get an idea of exactly how far mobile has to grow. We really only are just scratching the surface. About 5% or so of traffic across the EU5 is coming from mobile, and that there is some variation by country. You see in the UK it's over 7%, and in some of the other countries it's closer to 3%. So there's a lot of talk about mobile. We're all using it, but in terms of the overall bandwidth and the overall page counts that we're using, the vast majority are still on kind of classic PC, really giving the indication of the fact that we're just beginning. Really, the mobile landscape is very nascent even now, and has a lot of opportunity for growth. And that's certainly true across all of Europe. So one other thing interesting thing we looked about in this study is how people use devices during the day. And that's very interesting for those of us involved in kind of the media component of the space, because what we're finding is if you look at how these things play out from morning until evening, in the morning you see people begin to start to use the computer, their classic computer, and use that. The usage begins to rise during the day, but as you get into the evening, people are abandoning their kind of computers and really using more of their tablets, and in particular, mobile devices, but in particular tablets. And so if you are the kind of company that has relies in any way on things happening in the evening after dinner, you really need to understand how these usage patterns play out during the course of the day. And if you're not optimized for a tablet experience, you may want to really think about that. And this is something that we're seeing true in the US as well. And all of these findings, by the way, go from a paper that we're releasing today that go into a lot more detail on each of these trends. So if anybody's interested, there'll be a lot more information available on that paper. But lastly, just one more quick point here of observation, which is where is all this going from a loyalty standpoint? What are consumers actually doing as they, in many cases, begin to have both a smartphone and a tablet device, and how does that begin to play out? And what I'm showing here is what that sort of cross-usage loyalty looks like. And the main point of this slide is that if you look at, for most people that own each type of device, kind of down the side, if you look at those that own Apple devices on the smartphone side, about a third of them also own, if they own a tablet device, it also tends to be an Apple. And if you go down and look at Android and RIM, those numbers kind of decrease, suggesting that the Apple is by far and away the leader in terms of cross-device loyalty. So, and that I think is coupled with what we're seeing in terms of the tablet growth I talked about earlier, really suggests that Apple is not an insignificant player here, and has really captured a lot of mind share loyalty, which is going to continue to be an important factor in this game. So that just sort of sets the stage a little bit here in terms of adoption and what the current marketplace looks like. And now I'm going to turn it over to René, who's going to talk about how that translates into and what the opportunities that that represents for retail, the retail marketplace.
So let me just share with you some very interesting mobile retail data. So first of all, this is an early trend that we're seeing, and I'm assuming that many of you in this room are business people, and you've got to seize the opportunity here. And that is the rise of mobile retail commerce. More and more consumers are using mobile devices to actually purchase products and services. Across the big EU5 countries, roughly very close to 14 million people are actually using their smartphone to purchase goods and services on a daily basis. And surprisingly, the fastest growing market is actually Germany, which is growing 112% year over year. So many of us here in a room, just think of you running a business. Does your business grow 112% year over year? If you are one of the lucky ones. This is a great opportunity for all of us to actually seize the opportunity. And the smartphone is really revolutionizing the retail business. That's why I'm predicting that 2012 will be the year of mobile retail here in Germany. This will fundamentally change the retail business, because I think that competition and price transparency will further increase going forward. And I think the classic filters in advertising and media will lose their influence if they don't take the opportunity to really differentiate and use this tool going forward. I think retailers will fight much harder for consumers in order to show the value add going forward. So let's have a quick look on who are all these people that are setting this trend right now. So, what a surprise. Young males are actually driving the retail mobile environment. And today's mobile shopper is young and he is male. I don't think this is really surprising considering that young men are really the first adopters of new technology. But I believe that this trend will be shifting very, very soon. With the rise of tablets and the ease to use and the general trend towards more intuitive user interfaces, I think that the smartphone for all genders and all age groups are ahead of us, and it's an opportunity for us to seize. Here in Germany, we're also leading Europe in LTE rollout, and I think that this will accelerate next generation activity going forward, especially for the mobile shopper. We take a look. Smartphones open up a whole new world for consumers. Another important part in this development is mobile payment. So we said that last year, but this year I actually bring you some statistics so you can see for yourself how this trend is changing. Smartphone is turning really into our own digital wallet, and that will continue going forward. Nearly 1 in 8 smartphone users already actually use products like M-Pass, PayPal, and banking applications. And roughly 1/5 of every smartphone user is actually accessing their bank account. So there are bankers here. You have a fantastic opportunity to sell new additional products and services going forward. And instead of carrying credit cards, ID, company cards, keys, or even cash, sooner or later, your mobile phone will take care of this going forward. I believe, again, in the next few years, there will be no more credit cards. I think everything will be done over your mobile device. Here in Germany, we created a joint venture with Telefonica Germany, Deutsche Telekom, and Vodafone. And in Q2, we will be launching a whole new service where 70 million customers can overnight purchase goods and services with their mobile phones. And one thing that will help us accelerate this is actually NFC technology. And my colleague who will be speaking after me will share with you some of the insights that NFC will have in the coming months and years, and it's a great opportunity for all of us in this room. Let me just share with you an interesting statistic that I read from Handelsblatt. By 2014, here in Germany, there will be over 300 million NFC-enabled devices. That is extraordinary, and it's an opportunity I hope you seize going forward. And the device is also becoming an in-store shopping tool. Let me finally direct you to my very last point here today, and that is smartphones are already a multiple device. We know it can do a phone, a voice call, it's an address book, it's a calendar map, it's a navigation system, it's a newsreader, it's an e-book, as we heard yesterday and today. And I believe that smartphones are also becoming an in-store shopping tool. We've got some very interesting data that many consumers, especially here in Germany, are comparing thousands of products and services right there in the shop. 1 in 7 smartphone owners are actually using barcode scanners in order to check out prices and products and to see if it's worth their while to actually go to another location for a further discount or to actually pay more for our value-added services that you could offer. Every 5th smartphone user actually takes pictures of a product and actually sends that to other people for an opinion. And 1 in 10 are actually using mobile shopping guides. Now, these numbers might seem quite small to you, but I think what I wanted to share with you today is that this is the beginning of a trend. And it's a trend that you can seize on and capitalize, and hopefully you can share all your great winnings next year at the DLD. So with that, I just wanted to reiterate everything that you heard today, that really the mobile phone, the smartphone, and the tablet is a fantastic consumer device that will be very influential by the ones that use it, and I hope you seize this opportunity going forward. And with that, I'd like to hand over to my colleague that will share with you some exciting new technology that's actually going to help accelerate this fantastic opportunity.